I do think this is rather fascinating. Richard Dreyfuss comes onto this and then does Jaws right after. But I think the funny thing with Richard Dreyfuss is an interesting character actor. I mean, not necessarily for the reasons of just like him not being a nice guy. Richard Dreyfuss ends up being one of the big star takeaways from Jaws. I mean, you look at Roy Scheider, and he is amazing in Jaws. There's no question about that. But you also see that as like, how do we, what kind of stuff do we cast him in afterwards? He gets all that jazz, and he gets Sorcerer, but I think those are out-of-pocket, left-field stuff, and come the 1990s, he's doing Sequest at the favor of Steven Spielberg. Richard Dreyfuss ends up catching a win from this, and I think also on the basis of Richard Dreyfuss was on the set of Jaws. Close Encounters had already been a script that Steven Spielberg was writing, just different drafts. Paul Schrader, of all people, did a draft of Close Encounters, a lot more religious and guilt-oriented, Catholic guilt-oriented, if you can believe that. But Close Encounters is on the brain, and it was originally the thing that Spielberg wanted to do first, but it just wasn't ready. Universal gives him script Jaws on his desk and like, hey, you should do this. This could be your thing, and obviously Jaws becomes what it is. But he's talking about Close Encounters on the set of Jaws, describing it just sort of in a vague sense of who this character is. This father, this absentee father who's obsessed with aliens. A sort of interesting continuation if you think about Jaws versus Close Encounters, because like Jaws is some guy who gets a shock to his system that ripple, like you think about the scene at the dinner table where he's just inconsolable and he's gone mad, all he's thinking about is the shark. Close Encounters is a whole movie of that scene. Close Encounters is on the table, and Richard Dreyfuss is there, hears about this. Like, I don't know how much this was happening, but Richard Dreyfuss was pestering Steven Spielberg throughout the shooting of Jaws, being like, hey, I want to do that. I should do that. That's a great idea. I think I'm perfect for that. That's such a fun idea, over and over and over again. And funny, in Close Encounters, Richard Dreyfuss was not the first choice. I think the original first choice was Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen loved it, but basically said, look, I don't cry on screen. I have my own persona. I don't think this meshes perfectly well with that, but good luck. They go through a bunch of people, and then Richard Dreyfuss, Spielberg is like, okay, Richard Dreyfuss, you want to come do this? And then I think it's perfect because it's Richard Dreyfuss. I think it's like an unconventional, like, it's kind of like a hippie dad situation. And I think that is a lot more interesting and specific than going mild-mannered, American dad.